Good evening. This is the Diamonds Network. Elizabeth Diamond here, September 22nd, 2015. And as we learned last night on the Monday night call, Diamonds Forever 31, it's the second day of peace. That long story, you have to listen to the call, but that's good. And the days of peace will get more and more days as we go these more months. So welcome to Voices from the Alternative World every Tuesday, and we have Diamond shows Monday through Thursday. So check out the blog, Diamonds with an S, forever31.blogspot.com. On Voices from the Alternative World, we're talking about lots of communities building up to step out of this world and make a new world into the golden age. So welcome your hosts, Dale and Sunny, and Candy, Shop Candy in the background. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh, I wanted to say this reference number on the recorded line is 286 pound. So that's 209-255-1099 and 883267 pound and 285 pound. Take it away.
Well, I guess we should say, one of us should say the law of one, and I'm willing to do that, to invoke the law of one.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a straggler, but I'm getting it together, Sonny, so I'm my pen in hand here, so I have that ready to go, but it's the starting point.
All right, well, I will begin then. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. And when one is loved, all are loved. And since I am one with all there is, I therefore ask that in the name of who I am, that only that which serves the greater good of all concerned happen here and now and through all time and space. I give thanks that it be done, so be it. Blessed be.
Amen.
Amen.
And, well, tonight, this is in the early beginnings of the show. We're in the process of introducing ourselves to the audience, and Sunny gave a great expression of her experiences as she's traveled through her journey and arrived here. And so I thought that it would be appropriate, because really these three letters tell the story and the focus of my life, which is actually building fraternities or intentional communities or alternative communities to the status quo. So, this my uncle passed away, and he was my mentor, and I kind of took a deep breath and said, well, gee, my job's done, because I'm certainly not going to fill his shoes. And then it became abundantly clear that activation is just part of the journey. And so I was inspired to write a letter to President Obama when the first day he took office, and Leslie Alexander packaged this up and it arrived the day he actually took the oath of office. And so this is my first letter in an effort to get people to start thinking and behaving differently to President Obama. And it says, and this was January 21st, 2009. Dear President Obama, first let me applaud you on the magnificent victory for you as well as the human race. The terrible tragedy of the simple truth, all men are created equal, is that it wasn't practiced by the vast majority when it was declared. Every few hundred years, it seems, humanity is confronted with the truth of Galilean proportion. Regardless of how inconvenient or in conflict with the status quo, compels those who understand it to influence others to change the way they think and act. Such is the nature of the truth found in the Owaspy, a copy of which is included for you along with this letter. The Owaspy explains the age-old problems of war, crime, and poverty, including the new ones of global economics and climate change, cannot be solved within the limits of present-day governments or religions. The radical change required in humanity's thinking and behavior can only be achieved within the framework of a new form of governance, describing the WASPI as fraternities. Unlike governments of the past forged with war, death, and destruction, resulting in countless enemies and endless conflict, fraternities are crafted with the Creator's weapons of gentle persuasion, love, truth, and wisdom, laying the cornerstone of enduring justice, peace, and freedom. For over 50 years, my dear friend, mentor, and uncle, Guido Blomet, devoted his life to unfolding others to the great wisdom in the Book of WASPI. Guido traveled to Washington, D.C., approaching every administration from President Kennedy to President Clinton, including key personnel and legislators. On his last trip, shortly before his death, he was informed if he continued coming to Washington, he would be taken into custody. To this day, I still remain confident that at some point in time, our leaders will give the message in the WASPI the consideration it deserves instead of ignoring or threatening the messenger. Mr. President, make no mistake. History has proven that as man grows in stature, the Creator provides a new and better government, just as feudalism gave way to monarchies. Fraternities will replace republics. My hope is you approach this truth somewhat like myself, with a degree of anticipation and excitement, much like a child during Christmas. Best wishes to you and your family, sincerely, Dale Blomet. And then at the end, a postscript, I suggest reading the following chapters first. The Voice of Man, the Book of Jehovah, the Book of Judgment, the Book of Inspiration, the Book of Jehovah's Kingdom on Earth, and the Book of Discipline. And then I gave Leslie Alexander, after I wrote the letter, I would send it to her, and she would package up a book and send it to the president, which she did. So, her address there at the museum in Dona Ana is, and their phone number is included at the bottom. So, and then, so that took, I figured the leader of the free world was entitled to some alternative other than, just dispersing the planes and sending the troops somewhere to kill somebody. And now this one was to Pope Benedict. And dear Pope Benedict, I hope this letter finds you in a spirit of good faith and profound courage. Enclosed with the letter I wrote to President Obama is a copy of the Book of WASPI. I selected the President and you to be the first to receive copies of the book and the letter. Together, you represent the political and religious leadership of the free world. Again, I will refer to history and using Galileo as an example of world leaders stubbornly holding on to false beliefs contrary to absolute fact. WASPI explains what you call sin is simply an act committed in darkness or ignorance. Nonetheless, we are all held responsible. I don't think anyone on this planet would approach you as I am. Your followers are too afraid. Others have different beliefs. Still others consider you obsolete and irrelevant. I, as a faithless and bound by my Creator's law, the wise must help the unwise and the strong must help the weak. Let's address your immediate pressing problem, the issue of pedophilia among your leaders. The fact that the two most powerful drives the Creator endowed man with, the appetite for food and the desire for sex, for the purpose of guaranteeing that no matter what else takes place, there are going to be plenty of future generations. The Church, again, stubbornly ignoring a simple fact of biology, insisting on a vow of celibacy in direct conflict with the Creator's will. Put aside the fact if everyone decided to suddenly want to become priests, the human race would become extinct. Celibacy is not something that results from an edict by a pope. Celibacy is a behavior that results from having no sexual desire, a perfectly natural condition for those who are born celibate. For those who are not celibate, well, you are presently embroiled in results when behavior is contrary to the will of your Creator, Benedict. If I may take the liberty of addressing you by your first name, by the way, my father's middle name is Benedict, having been raised by my grandmother Lindenberger, and her stern, unconditional love, mixed with copious amounts of fruit pie and strudel, gives me a natural affinity for you and your German heritage. Frankly, I wish it was all just a matter of pedophilia. The present rampage of the megalomaniacal monster masquerading as a global free market economy is on the path to turning the Creator's planet into a wasteland. You and your predecessors' prayers, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, have been answered, perhaps not in the manner you were expecting. The Oahspe teaches when the Creator gave man dominion of the planet, he gave responsibility to us for its care as well as the care of its inhabitants. It's no time to sit on a cloud and play harps. We have to undo what we have done in ignorance, turn a paradise, in ignorance, we've turned a paradise into hell, roll up our sleeves, and with faith in our Creator and good works, build his kingdom on earth. All of the errors of the past are just a process of growth for the Creator's eternal purpose, turning every evil into an ultimate good. Don't worry about your reputation. I quote from the Oahspe. Better to lose your reputation in 1,000 worlds than lose your reputation with your Creator. It is truly your choice. Do nothing and become part of a relic in the past, or turn around and begin anew, marching forward with the Creator in his truth and light. At the bottom of the letter, you will see the chapters in Oahspe I would suggest you read first. Please feel free to contact me at your convenience, and I give them the information. Basically, the same chapters that I always sent these letters, not with the idea of meeting with them, but with the idea of them facing the truth and coming to the conclusion that they have to resign. So, oddly enough, now it may not have been because of this letter or the Oahspe, but Benedict did resign his position, and we now have, as we speak, Pope Francis is in Washington getting ready to meet with the president tomorrow. Now, this third letter, this is just because this is a guy that I really, really enjoy, and I enjoy his programs because they're always educational, informative, and it's always very civil. So it's just, this is one of my favorite people, and that's Charlie Rose, and this was sent on December 19th, 2010. And dear Charlie, after viewing a recent program featuring Gordon Brown, and he was at that time, he was a former Prime Minister of England, and Gordon Brown was his guest. I was puzzled by his prescription for the world's present dilemma. I understand you, being a Southern gentleman that you are, not wanting to offend an invited guest. Your first question regarding his take on the violence against the royals by demonstrators expressing their anger against proposed austerity measures. By him condemning the violence against the royals without an attempt to understand why it occurred or if it was justified is neglecting his responsibility as a leader. If our friend Gordon uses the words morality and social justice for something more than flowery platitudes to beguile the ignorant, he knows there can be no peace without justice. The American Revolution and Civil War come to mind. The injustice of the British people facing severe cutbacks in all their vital social programs while the royals bask in the lap of luxury causes one to pause and wonder not why is there violence, but why hasn't there been assassinations? If the British people can't afford education and health care, certainly it's time to rid themselves of an overburdensome, irrelevant monarchy. Without you asking, let me give you my take not only on Gordon Brown, but world leaders in general. Mr. Brown strikes me as one of those mid-18th century doctors of medicine. After leaving the pub with a belly full of pudding and a head full of ale, decides to pay a visit to his favorite patient, the noble Sir Affairs of State. Upon completing his examination, he orders the nurse to apply more leeches. Centuries later, the cure for the disease is discovered, massive radiation and chemotherapy followed by a bone marrow transplant. He was ignorant of an undiscovered truth. It has often been said that insanity can be defined as expecting a different result from the same repetitive behavior. Why would Mr. Brown come to the conclusion that the solution to the world's problems is more of the same? More leeches, more growth, more production, more consumption, lower unemployment, more favorable trade agreements, more of the megalomaniac monster masquerading as a global free market economy. What makes him think the Chinese, with thousands of years of history, are stupid enough to curtail their production and employment goals to allow us to feast on their consumers? They understand that real wealth is in production, not paper. They are holding trillions in U.S.-denominated paper that is rapidly losing its value. The cure to our dilemma as a species is not a problem of too much or too little blood, but is to be found close to the bone, in the marrow. in the nature of man, in the foundation of things. The enemies of humanity in this age are entrenched institutions and their leaders, governments, corporations, nations, and nationalism, fanatical religions armed with diabolical doctrines of moral supremacy, all enforced by a rampaging military-industrial complex. This so-called global free market economy is best described in a quote by Greek philosopher Diogenes. There is nothing more terrible than ignorance in action. This particular insanity that the human race is afflicted with is an exotic hybrid, synthesized from modernity, a mixture of mass psychosis, sociopathic narcissism, and paranoid schizophrenia. The prescription for our dilemma is to subordinate our will to the axioms of our planet and the surrounding universe, also known as the will of our Creator. Our mission statement needs to change from we come, we see, we conquer because we can, to we come, we search for and discover the truth and live it by it so we can all not only survive but flourish. The notion that we are put here to possess, control, and destroy is ridiculous, as believing a water molecule controls the oceans. We are an infinitesimal part of an infinite universe and should be exerting all our energy in an effort to understand the greater truth in order to accomplish the greater good. Better to change our nature than fall victim to our present insanity by drowning in a toxic soup of industrial waste or perishing in the holocaust of a nuclear firestone. Several years ago, I sent you a letter with a copy of the book Oahspe. In the letter, there was a list of chapters that you were suggested you read first. If you received the book, please read or reread those chapters. If you did not receive the book, I would be more than happy to deliver another copy to you personally at a time and place of your convenience. It is my belief that you, at your core, beats the heart of a passionate journalist with an insatiable appetite for the truth. My hope is you are one of those rare individuals who is able to summon the courage and faith to put that truth ahead of any personal consideration, distinguishing yourself as one of those giants in civilization, a torchbearer that lights the way. And, then I gave the information. So, to the group, and the listeners, I just wanted to give some idea that this quest of mine to create a better world and develop these communities has been, from the time when I was 17, I thought by this time when I'm 65, we'd have well over 10,000 communities that were functioning and networking and leading the way for the rest of the world to follow. But this is obvious. Everything that's happening is obviously on the Creator's timetable, and that's perfectly fine with me. So anyway, having said that, I'm open to comments, questions. Hello?
Dale, did you receive any return communication from Obama or Pope Benedict?
Well, this has been again the disseminating the light in this book and the idea of building a new world with small communities. This has been in my life since I'm a young kid, and it was even though we didn't get a response, I felt this time the fact that the Pope Benedict resigned. I kind of joked. I thought it was. I joked that the reason why he resigned is because he got carpal tunnel from signing checks for the molestation suits. but the idea is to just get the idea out there and let the Creator. It's a matter of record. Somebody's going to pop up and say, "Well, if we had known about this, we would have done something." And I can say, well, how about going back to 1961 at the start of the point when you just had advisors in Vietnam. Every administration from the time of President Kennedy has had a book, okay, and a letter. And, my uncle wrote a 3,000-word telegram to President Kennedy just enumerating, because you have, and all the issues concerning leadership and death, and so.
I just want to say, Dale, that's beautiful, and that's beautiful what you did and your family did. And I want to bring in the synchronicity of today, September 21st, 2015. You're happening to tell the story about you wrote a letter to President Obama and the Pope. Well, today, President Obama and the Vice President, both parties for the first time, met the Pope in the United States of America. Isn't that interesting for synchronicity?
Yeah, it really is, and particularly their agenda. He wants to focus on the issue of poverty and climate change, and these are, and he's actually going to address the Congress, which I think is really significant. And I haven't had an opportunity yet, but I think before long I'm going to send the Pope this particular Pope a book and a message. I think at this point in time. I have a book and a letter, and I keep it to one less than a page. I just want to. The whole focus is to get them in the book and start thinking about changing our behavior and all aspects. We're about 180 degrees out. We got to get the compass heading on. Correct.
Well, my opinion for this Pope, when you send him the letter, he already knows all about that. It's just that book could give him even more strategy and more ideas to build on his vision. So you go for it, Dale. Yeah. Yeah.
That's that. So it's so it all comes down to once again changing the world, and these individual communities have to be put together, nuts and bolts, one individual at a time, and then we can just monitor the progress of what's taking place, what the projection is in the future, and so you can get a grasp that the reason why things are so chaotic, or seem to be, and doesn't make any sense, that you can start putting the dots together and see that it's really a very coherent, intelligent way that the Creator is going about educating us.
Well, I would say that now is more opportune time, and especially with Pope Francis, because he's really extraordinary as a pope.
Oh,
he's enlightened almost.
And he was there was a statement in his talks that he wants a gentle revolution. That a revolution of the spirit that changes things. He's not advocating that anything comes of using force, and military, and this is, that was the whole point of the letter to Pope Benedict. Is the big thing the church has to do is get God out of the war business and say it has nothing to do with them. This is manufactured by human beings to make money, and the disregard for life and choosing profit over common sense and sacredness is really going to be our downfall. And I was wondering.
I just want to mention a couple of things they mentioned today regarding the Pope. In a nutshell, his whole thing for coming to the United States is, in the message that he'll bring, is the future of humanity passes through the family. And the other one is, where it is. Where's it at? I just had it. And in a nutshell, the scripture for the message for the United States of America, and this goes to all realms, spirit, physical, mental, emotional, to whom a lot has been given, a lot is expected. USA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's that. And if you look at the intentional communities, the core of that is the Creator and family and friends. That those units that bind the creation together in love, are what's going to keep it together. If us taking the tack we have, we're 50% of our marriages end up in divorce, and we almost have a negative birth rate. So, you know, we're becoming extinct because we have no spiritual center.
Well, we each need to now find our own spiritual center within ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's what the intentional community is about, is finding around those places, because you have to be compatible with your surroundings and the people in it, and that's what it is a search for harmony, where each individual can find their peace. And that's why these communities are going to be different colors and flavors and textures, you know, and some appeal to some people and some appeal to other people. But the main thing is that we're going to find ourselves within a family, you know, and that's basically what the Pope's message was.
Yes, that's really beautiful. That the Pope is reflecting these more universal truths now, and not so much that, even though the church establishment may not be too happy about this, he's reflecting more universal truth and oneness.
Well, the church is clearly at the center of a firestorm, and if they don't change their direction, and if they don't stand up to the Creator's laws that life is sacred, and depart from the idea that there's righteous wars of any kind, they're just going to disappear, you know, because but if they adhere to the truth, then that's where the courage comes in spite of what the consequences. You know, you got to stand up for what's right.
Let me give you a little thing of courage, and, you know, especially for the ones building these different communities out of the programming, out of the matrix, and, you know, awesome relationships, is here's courage for all of us, and I just encourage everybody for this. We're in the midst of a storm all around us, but guess where it's most peaceful in a storm? Can you guys guess? In the eye of the storm.
Yeah, these are, you know, my best friend of 30 years expressed it. Craig, he passed away from cancer in 2007. We had really long discussions, and he every once in a while he would conclude with, well, these are exciting times, and then he'd turn his head and look at me and says, Dale, you don't necessarily want to be alive in exciting times. So, you know, it's nice when you got smooth sailing, but we're going to have some turbulence here, and you know, it's just part of the.
That was my point.
Yeah.
We are in turbulence now. If you individually can get yourself in the eye of the storm, pretend like you're in a tornado and you're in the middle of the tornado, and up to the top, it's peaceful there. There's no wind or anything. It's glorious.
Yeah, so here's to gathering in the center of the storm.
Here.
Well, we've been preparing ourselves for this for many years, but it seems like the inner work goes on. Everything is coming up these days for our scrutinins.
Let me just bring this into... Yeah. Sonny, let me bring these. I am seeing commercials now that are inspiring to awakening, like a car commercial. A car commercial today, and he was driving the car. It was a new car, and it said something about take control of the car, but then he said something about take control of yourself. If you can't take control of yourself, it helps more than just you. Little do you know, or something like that. That's different, huh?
Wow. A commercial, too.
Yeah, and then I saw another commercial today. It was another car commercial. They were just doing, like, scenes. You know how they show a car on the floor and flash to different scenes of this beautiful car? But it wasn't a car. It was a spaceship technology. And it kept flashing, and then I forgot what it said, but it was a company that I never heard of before. It was like one of those big companies that build. It was a spaceship. Do you believe that? I smiled at this commercial.
Yeah. Well, this, you know, there's been some big steps in technology lately, and the big one in energy is like I was mentioning to Elizabeth, was in the Netherlands. They are producing 150%, 50% over their needs for their country with solar and wind, and exporting that energy to other European nations. And the other thing is Aspen has just reached the landmark where they are totally self-sufficient in renewable energy, and they're using solar and wind and hydro generation and geothermal energy, and so they're completely independent and off the grid.
Beautiful,
Colorado, yeah.
And that's nice.
Beautiful.
And when we see commercials, that it's subliminal in a good way too, right? Like the two examples I brought in. So when we start seeing commercials, we know it's right on the edge because the commercials are telling the world.
You have to realize that how fast this is changing, and what a tremendous effect it's going to have on the existing economic order, because there's not going to be the cash flow. They're not going to be shipping millions of barrels across the ocean in these big tanker ships. They're not going to be drilling new oil wells. They're not going to be refining gasoline. They're not going to be doing all these things. And the end result is the velocity and the exchange of money is going to slow down to the point where it was like our old friend the Republic is just you don't have to tear it down because it's just going to die a natural death. And as every new community, intentional community, or fraternity comes online, that's that much that they're withdrawing from that reciprocity and exchange of money, and so we're freeing ourselves from ourselves in the process of changing the world.
And here's another sign where I learned today on a show, the astrology we're in now through the fall is where U.S. and Russia, there was like war, and then it was the same date where these planets are aligned, which haven't been aligned for a long time. It was all coincided with Russia and USA. There was a war. At one time, the Berlin Wall fell, and now we're at that time with Russia and the United States again, doing something. We're beyond war. So look to Russia again, right? Russia and the parade and that ship in the ocean and Cynthia, I got to bring this in too. Just last night said we're in the astrology where pharmaceuticals are going to change. The organic ones will come up, and the other ones. Guess what? Hillary Clinton talked about today. She released a pharmaceutical plan where we've studied about this 3-4 years ago, where there was a lawsuit where one aspirin was $5, and then they raised it to $200 a pill. She's actually said that on the podium. So anyway, it's going on. It's really going on, you guys. Everything's changing.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah. And also I wanted to mention that Russia has declared itself a GMO-free country.
Wow.
What I understand. Yeah, that's
and there's
they did that a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just been reading about it recently on Facebook. But that's really something, and other countries are doing the same too.
Another blurb from Russia that really, really, really strikes me, because in spite of all Trump's fault, and he may or may not be the next president, but he said that he could, that his foreign policy is actually going to make things more peaceful. And one of the things that he expressed is that he wanted to sit down and talk with Russia and Putin. And Putin responded recently, either yesterday or today, and says he would like to talk with Trump, because it's like the art of a deal that, if you have the capacity and you're dynamic enough to look at all the facts and then come up with an agreement that both parties can agree to it and participate in, that's, the best lawyers are one of the ones that are able to conflict resolution without going in court, where they can sit down and just say, well, look, you take this, I take that, that's yours, and then we can do business.
Dale, you just hit on the thing of the show I watched today. That's what's going on in the astrology this fall, and it's going to build till 2022. And that is exactly when people can sit down, like if one person's telling them a problem, right, and you just listen, and you don't go back with them and say, oh, here's what we can do. You'll ask them, can I give you some feedback on that? And that kind of, and then if they say yes, that kind of right there, it starts the relationship and back and forth. What you exactly said.
Exactly.
Macro and micro.
And that emotional intelligence to start using the left side of our brain to be reasonable is an evolutionary process. Like that when you're using your logical mind, your spiritual brain, you don't fly off the handle and jump to conclusions and go off on some kind of a rampage and emotional hijacking. You sit down and say, well, listen, we have a mutual problem that we have to solve. We can't just sit here and continually drop bigger bombs on each other until somebody wins. That scenario is mutually assured destruction. So yeah, it's happening. We're moving right along, and then another front on the energy that's going to put a big damper in the banks and the insurance companies. There are two of them. One is the driverless car, because as soon as that hits the road, accidents are going to disappear, because everything is going to be done by the numbers and by electronics, and those vehicles are in no way, shape, or form can they get close together to even simulate a collision. So what's going to happen to the insurance industry is they're making a fortune now on accidents that don't happen. That's where they make their profit. The vast majority of people don't get in accidents, and they just keep that cash. And then the ones that do, they've generated so much profit that they can pay for the repairs and the medical bills. And it's also going to have a really effect in our emergency rooms, because automobile accidents are really a factor in repair. So the progress and the light and technology is actually systematically, step by step, dissolving the system. And the alternative is since we have no appetite for war, we don't need a nation that's led by a central government. We want freedom and control of ourselves and the environment that's directly around us that concerns our family and our friends and the ones that we associate. And the communities, by reason, are going to be small, because you can manage a small community. Everybody is a participant. Everybody has value. Everybody has a place, and everybody's engaged in life and community and what's going on around them. And you get excited about waking up in the morning.
That's that one more thing. The show again I listened to, and I think it was for me to listen to, just to synchronicity of what we brought to the show last night. Mm-hmm. What you just said, smaller groups, smaller communities. We're going back to that, going back to more mom and pop stores privately. But here's what I talked about. There's a thing in West Virginia going on where if it goes down smoothly, it'll set a precedent. Kind of like Iceland did. They took their country back. They literally went in and took all the people they didn't want out and occupied it. But if that goes down, then each state will be able to take the state back. Well, even if that doesn't go, something's going to trigger it where, just like you said, it's going to be smaller communities. Well, in the macro, in the United States of America, let's just say government controls all. Well, let's bring that back down. The government used to just be for the post office and something else, and all the states regulated their own state. And within the state, counties, and within the counties, groups, and with the groups, families, and down there. So yes, that sounds really good to me.
Yeah, the thing of it is, once what really governs having a central authority and was the ability to wage war and expand empire and profit, and so since we're becoming at peace with ourselves, we're going to be at peace with each other, and so we don't need, we're not in that era, we're going to grow up with that. We're going to.
And when it unwinds again, the states will just say that government doesn't have so much power anymore. They just control the post office, roads, and all whatever. And then each state that regulates the rules, and then the people. But the thing is, that's where these thousands of collective consciousness groups come in, where each little group is kind of like their own little world, but we're all on planet Earth. And it's such a variety, kaleidoscope, beautiful painting that you can go visit these other groups and learn and cooperate together. And everybody's creativity and uniqueness is in certain groups, you know.
As a futurist, let's just extrapolate what you know. I'll share my vision of the future. So now we've got the whole world. The borders are gone. The governments are gone. We are organized as individual, self-sufficient, independent communities that are interconnected. And so we have like a job board, you know, and we transfer it over the internet. Now say you've been studying music in one community. That's their central team it's full of musicians, and that's their life love. And you want to study biology, or you want to study marine biology. So you look at all the communities and say, well, here's an opening that it's down in, you know, let's just say the area of La Jolla, and they've got a program where you can get and we'll have levels of learning like degrees in marine biology. And so you go there for 8 or 10 years and study that, and you might decide, well, this is what I love. This is where I want to stay. And then somebody else will look at a community up in the northern hemisphere and say, you know, that really likes the snow and the seasons, and they're managing wildlife, you know, and zoology. So you go up there and so you're going to have people. There's going to be people. You're not going to be stuck in a cubicle in a 100-story building for 40 years and then come out and take a trip to Tahiti and then die from a heart attack. You know, the dynamics of the new world. Everything is going to be in motion. You know, nobody's going to be frustrated or angry because they're stuck someplace where they don't want to be. The whole our whole thing is to make everybody live a fulfilling and happy life, and we want to know, listen, is there anything you want to do, or maybe have you looked at this? And they say, well, what I really want to do is I'd like to write. Well, there may be these cities that are built up for people who are writers, you know, and that have common interests. So, you know, like I say, this thing is going to take shape, but the end result is happiness and harmony and joy. You know, that nobody's there's an opportunity for everyone to develop all their talents and a place to do it. You know, that's why you were created, and that the Creator's will be fulfilled. The Creator's when all His creatures are functioning and happy and have knowledge of Him and are working with the Creator, that's paradise. You know,
Dale, I hope there's a Peter Pan flying school group around. I want to go there. Think happy thoughts.
If there's not, we'll build one. Okay. Well, you know, I can see traveling theater groups going into these communities and having their shows and having their music and, you know, traveling orchestras and. You know, use your imagination. All the things that all the energy and time that we devote to death and destruction, we'll be devoting to love and life. So then there's, you know, it's unlimited positivity instead of unlimited negativity. You know,
it's going to be but the whole world's going to be like one big Disney World. But you know what I mean? It's fun.
Truly be a party.
Yeah, we saw this vision in the late 60s and 70s, and the One World Family Commune spoke of schools of experience, you know, where you go into, well, we just had, you know, we had some houses in different cities in California and on Maui, but, you know, would just go to where we could learn, you know, into a creative school of experience, and we had that going on. You know, and I really like the expanded idea, of course, of having these communities in all these different climates.
Well, I might have to find a unique community soon, Sonny. One that takes 2 dogs and 2 cat communities.
Well,
if you could think, Elizabeth, if you could think of a community that it needs to be built, maybe we can work on that as part of the Diamond Networks program.
Ooh, and we'll build it in the shape of a diamond.
Yeah.
And that works.
We'll get a bunch of architects on it and say, okay. That's why One World Community and Jay Sobel, their executive director. That's why I really want to get him on, because that's what he's actually doing. He's actually designing cities with architectural students.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
You know, and so because we do, unlike this thing where everything is Navajo white with tile roofs, wherever you go, and there's always a McDonald's and always a Carl's Jr. and always a Chevron gas station. Each community is going to have its own individual, like a flower garden, you know, and the whole thing that the architect does is try to, in his mind's eye, create that beautiful thing that he sees that's unlike everything else, like the snowflakes, you know.
And added different to this this one with the communities, by the year 2030 or abouts around there, it won't just be human beings creating all this on Earth. It'll be human beings co-creating with our ET brothers and sisters here on Earth, and maybe us going other planets creating. Isn't that beautiful?
In actuality, that's happening right now, but we're just not aware of it, you know. We call it intellectual property. You know, somehow our brain cells get together and come up with these incredibly, you know, it's just like the iPhone. You know, Steve Jobs took credit for it, but that didn't come from Steve Jobs. That was otherworldly, you know, and game changing. And as we develop our spiritual senses, we'll be more in tune with that unseen world that we don't, you know, the vast majority of people don't put in the equation.
Well, that goes along with the raising of our frequency in these times when we'll be much more aware of the unseen world and those that are communicating with us from other dimensions. As long as we can keep our feet on the ground at the same time, as long as we're still here working on planet Earth.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I've been kept spiritually blind, because I'll tell you, if I had started having communication with the spirit world, I know that it's so much better. I'm the kind of guy that says, well, I don't have to sit here in this stupidity. Let me out of here, and I leave my body. So they kept me. Because I don't argue with success. You know, when I see a better idea, boom, I'm gone. So,
by the way, today too is Yom Kippur, a holiday, Jewish holiday, otherwise known as the Day of Atonement. And the Pope came; he's resting today. And then, and Obama, and if you guys want to just introduce or let everybody know next week's guest and finish it up here. Great. This is a great conversation. I loved it.
Yes, it is. Well, there's a good chance next week's guest will be Joseph Enteré from the One World Family Commune. I'm going to communicate with him about it.
I thought it was Candy.
Oh, well, I guess
if by chance Sonny's friend is not able to show, that Candy's ready to step in for backup.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she'll be the guest the following week.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true. Can you hear me, Dale?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you in the background when you're not even speaking. So I'm very careful of what I say, Candy.
Well, I have lived in and visited 50 communes and tried to start my own, and so here in Canada and England and in Europe, and so it's going to be interesting whether I'm on next week or in the future.
Yeah.
So
great.
Look forward.
We'll just keep in touch with everyone, and we'll let you all know as soon as we know. But it'll be wonderful if Candy's on next week or Joseph, whoever it might be.
Yeah, Sonny, you'll keep us posted if the individual can't make it next week, but the following week, and then we'll get Candy in the loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me plug the Candy Shop show tomorrow night, September 23rd. Christopher will be my guest speaker, Christopher Jacobs. So tune in for that an hour later.
I will be here tomorrow, Candy, without fail. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Very good. Yes.
And
Good
there's
stuff. Yeah.
There was did I mention driverless cars?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, because what the effect is that's going to have on this economy. The cash flow is getting to the point, going to get to the point where it can't fund the governments, so they're going to be forced to go into these intentional communities. And the stronger the foundation we have, and the more we have, the easier the transition will be.
Right. Well, the time seems to be now for this transition to take place, and now that the cabal is losing its hold on the planet and the people and the leaders, then it's really time for this new world to emerge. So it's very exciting times that we are in now.
Yeah, I was. I'm just like Hubert Humphrey said. I'm as pleased as Punch to be here.
Hey, Dale, I got one for you. I just got. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It says fear, F-E-A-R, has two meanings. One, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours.
Yeah, there's a Chinese word, and I've forgotten what it says, but it has two meanings, and one is danger, and the other side of the same meaning of the same word is opportunity. So we focus on the opportunities because when the Creator comes in and creates these circumstances, it gives us an opportunity to grow and change things and make things better.
Right on.
Okay, well, stay tuned, right, for the Voices of the Alternative World next week, huh? When Candy or the other guests will come on. And Candy, wow, you've done a lot in your life. Mm-hmm. So, and Sunny and Dale, you all have. Mm-hmm. So you want to end it with one of your philosophy sayings, Sunny or Dale?
Well, I was pondering the events today, and Mark Twain's quote came to me, and it says, and I recently bought a little plaque with it that inscribed, and I gave it to my friend who's he's retired assistant district attorney in Torrance. We went to school together, and it says, never do today what you can put off until tomorrow or the next day. and because I'm a bit of a procrastinator, but it's just I would rather I'm happier being in the position I am today, where I'm good. Now, when I was a kid, everything was happening too slow, right? Now I'm 65 and I say, hey, well, slow down. Wait a minute, it's happening too fast.
Slow down. You're moving too fast. Got to make the morning last. I remember that Simon and Garfunkel song, "Feeling Groovy."
So I don't beat myself up. I do everything I can, and that which I can accomplish, I can say, well, there's another day. It's like baseball, Well, there's another inning. There's another game. There's another season. Just do as much as you can, and don't sweat the small stuff.
Right. We shouldn't be too hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
So we have to do everything now. Whatever flows right.
Yeah. You got to let the Creator. You got to let the Creator in and work at His speed.
His or hers.
Well, I use that as I should say he, she, but instead of his or her, I just should say the Creator and leave the gender out of it.
Right. Yeah. that just brings me to the idea of divine masculine and divine feminine energy.
I'll be honest with you. I'm really sensitive to that, because if I was a woman, I'm in Bella Abzug. I'd be raising hell. Excuse me.
Yeah, right. Well, because for so long, God in quotes, was always pictured as a male on the throne in heaven and apart from us. So there was always he. So now, in these recent times, there has been the idea of the goddess. Well, it's really ancient. The goddess has been around for a long time, but we're just reviving the idea of the reality of the goddess, the feminine manifestation of
I think that's part
divine.
of getting the universe back in balance. It's too much.
Yes.
Too
balance,
much
right.
For lack of a better word. Too much. It's just too much. It's got to be.
Yeah, because the divine feminine is about peace and love and there is a fierce side to her, of course. Protecting her, standing up for her family and everything else. But it's like Mother Nature, the healing powers of Mother Nature, and all of that beauty and everything. It's the magnetic energy.
I remember the power of my grandmother, Cecilia Lindenberger, and she never had to hit me, or she never did it. All she had to do was look at me. With that look at that look of disappointment, and it just snapped me out of it. Said, pull up your socks, Dale, and pay attention to what straighten up and fly right. And it was just I missed that look. I could have used it a few times over the years.
Well, she's probably still there looking.
Yeah. I've no doubt.
At you in spirit.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just a correctness, being true to yourself. That's being correct. Well, ladies, another great show, and I will see you tomorrow on the Candy Show.
Yes, I will be there too.
Candy Show tomorrow. I think Chris is on tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
Well,
the Candy and her number. Candy, are you on? You want to give your number? Or anybody know Candy's number?
Yeah, I've got it in my paper somewhere.
Yeah, I have it. It's Candy's not here anymore. It's 1-559-546-1700. And the PIN is 800-718#. So that's it. I'm in the Pacific time zone, so 6:30 Pacific, and all else adjusted. Therefore, 8:30.
Once again, that's 559-546-1700. PIN number 800718, and then press pound.
Yeah.
All right, great. And I'm following the Pope and Obama. I followed him today and taking notes of all this synchronicities of signs and wonders. So stay tuned for more of that on Monday's call. And Wednesday and Thursday, Cynthia's astrology call. That will be awesome. And Friday, we're all going to party. There's a party we're going to be talking about tonight. Okay. Good night, Dale and Sunny.
Okay, good night, everyone. Love you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
Love you all.
Are you looking for healing or a change in your life to help you enjoy it more fully? You might benefit from a galactic energy reading and clearing from Chris Jacobs. Chris will work with you on a soul level to clear unseen negative influences, implants, programs, contracts, and energetic blocks. Chris Jacobs is a gifted energy healer. Contact him today at ChristopherStephenJacobs@gmail.com.